Let's see if I can't crash the corner and get that contact. See if I can't get
Apollo achieved all of its scientific goals. But more importantly, it established that there were no impenetrable barriers blocking man's progress into space. Skylab, a two-story orbital workshop, was the next manned spaceflight endeavor. 3 separate three-man crews would visit and live in the orbiting laboratory in 1973 and 1974. One crew remained for nearly 3 months, proving that astronauts could withstand extended stays in space and continue to do useful work. Soon after, in 1975, the United States and the Soviet Union cooperated in the Apollo-Soyuz test project. The mission called for docking and crew exchange to develop the necessary equipment for space rescues. Despite the success of Apollo, a less costly method to transport materials into space was badly needed. In 1981, the United States launched Columbia, its first shuttle. The shuttle is a multi-purpose spacecraft that is reused and carries astronauts and equipment into space and then returns to Earth, landing like a conventional airplane. Despite the tragic loss of the Challenger, the shuttle program has proven to be durable and successful. Its achievements include using the space environment for the benefit of humankind. The skills and courage of the dedicated multinational shuttle crews has drawn the admiration of the world community. During the rest of this century, the shuttle will continue to perform important tasks. Vital programs include environmental monitoring of the Earth, microgravity experiments, and conducting biomedical and space research. The shuttle will also play a major role in assembly of the space station Freedom. The shuttle may eventually be replaced by a more sophisticated and economical vehicle such as the National Aerospace Plane. Its capabilities will include taking off like an airplane, traveling into space, and returning to land on a runway. Also, a new launch system will loft large cargoes directly into orbit. Both are giant new steps into the future.
T-minus 10 seconds. 8.
But America's future in space lies with its children. At the United States Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, Space Camp and Space Academy were created by von Braun and Edward Buckbee. They offer realistic space training for our future astronauts. One of today's graduates may well be the person who plants the first American flag on Mars.
Now, as you can see, this tower will become red hot, but only in a very localized area because the silicon...
I'm not proposing a 10-year plan like Apollo. I'm proposing a long-range, continuing commitment. First, for the coming decade, for the 1990s, Space Station Freedom, our critical next step in all our space endeavors, and next, for the new century, back to the moon, back to the future, and this time, back to stay. And then a journey into tomorrow, a journey to another planet, a manned mission to Mars.
Over 40 years ago, von Braun visualized in detailed studies scenarios that could be used to establish lunar colonies and the manner of exploring Mars. When these studies are compared to NASA's current space exploration initiative for the next 50 years, you quickly discover startling similarities, for it closely follows von Braun's grand blueprint for space. Von Braun's blueprint called for establishing a lunar colony by first assembling a fleet of space vehicles in orbit close to his donut-shaped space station. The fleet consisted of a lunar cargo ship and 2 lunar passenger ships. His plan called for all 3 spacecraft to descend to the lunar surface. The 2 passenger ships would each carry a crew of 20, and the cargo ship a crew of 10. Hydraulic legs would absorb the shock and automatically level the craft. Ample living quarters would be provided for the crew. The cargo ship, once on the surface, was to have been split in halves, with the 2 sections serving as living quarters and scientific laboratory. To protect the explorers, it was planned to locate the base in a crevice. Construction materials were to be lowered by a crane mounted on a tractor. At the end of the expedition, the crews would return to Earth orbit aboard the 2 passenger ships, but not before using tractors to explore the lunar surface. Shadow areas of this crater are illuminated by reflected Earth light. Small rockets with explosive charges were to be used for seismic studies of lunar interior structure. Apollo 16 employed the same method using mortar grenades. Today, NASA's plans are much the same, but of course more advanced technology would be employed. It has been over 20 years since the Apollo astronauts left their footprints on the moon. Hopefully, explorers will return early next century, not just to visit, but to establish permanent outposts. Tomorrow, astronauts will not only explore and perform scientific experiments, but seek out resources and select sites for permanent outposts. Later, pioneers of these settlements will gradually become less and less dependent on Mother Earth. The colonists must develop skills and techniques that will allow them to live off the land. They will also conduct vital research into geology, astronomy, and life sciences. The experience gained will prove invaluable for future exploration of Mars and other planetary bodies. Eventually, mankind will develop resources found on other planets. Here on the Moon, we can begin to plan for the development of local resources and the manufacture of products for export to Earth. This stunning view of Earth was produced by the unmanned spacecraft Galileo. Without such probes, the accomplishments of manned flight would have been severely limited, as they are the first explorers, preceding man into the solar system and beyond. Names like Viking, Explorer, Pioneer, Mariner, Voyager, Magellan, Galileo are part of our space heritage. Beginning in 1990, the spacecraft Magellan began peering through the thick, swirling clouds of Venus to reveal its surface in unsurpassed detail, including the beautiful canyon, Artemis. The volcano with the fluted rim is unofficially called the Tick. During the same year, the Voyager 2 spacecraft captured amazing photographic images of Miranda, a geologically interesting moon of the planet Uranus. Then on October 29, 1991, Galileo photographed the first images ever seen of an asteroid, 11-mile-long Gospra. The planet Mars has intrigued mankind for centuries. Less than half the size of Earth, it is nevertheless the most inviting world in our solar system for permanent human habitation. In 1954, von Braun presented a well-thought-out plan for the exploration and colonization of Mars. He envisioned the assembly in Earth orbit, near his familiar space station, of a large fleet of spacecraft. The expedition he proposed was to consist of 10 spaceships, a crew of 70, travel distance of 355 million miles, and a round-trip time of 2.5 years, including 15 months on the Martian surface. Upon reaching Mars orbit, von Braun planned to prepare 3 winged spacecraft to land on the surface. At the time, scientists believed the atmosphere was sufficiently dense to support a winged landing. Today,